Good afternoon. I'm just going to read from the Strongbox today, and the Strongbox is a single piece work. It's not a collection of poetry, it's a single work, but it is broken up into lots of different elements. And one of the things that characterises it is that it's set in a sort of Trojan War theatre, I suppose. That's the best way to describe it. And it also talks fairly obliquely about the fate of women who were kidnapped and abducted during times of war. Foremost amongst these women is Helen of Troy, of course. And so if it helps, then I think that the work is kind of centred around Helen of Troy and her fate. However, I began writing it in 2022, at the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And I'm a Russian translator, and I've been a Russianist pretty much all my life, all my adult life. So that period was particularly hard. I was doing a lot of translation of war testimony and accounts from Ukrainians and Russians about the war, but also about the building political repression in Russia, and that certainly played a part in this book. And one of the things that, as a result, I did was I used various bits of fragments of Russian literature, classical Russian literature, in the text. And one of the things that reading aloud gives me the chance to do is to put the Russian back in. It's not in the English text, but during a performance you can put that back in. So I will read, I think, maybe just one snippet of Russian as I read. So I'll start reading from the beginning, and at some point I'll just read a little part from the end, but I think you'll be able to work out what's going on, or at least I hope you will. It began with the sun appearing over the plain wing, supernatural orange but no light, a night of bitter memory sitting bolt upright, phrase book on her lap, travelling east. It began on the least good road, late at night, a silent soldier sent to bring her here, his leather pouch on the passenger seat, his bow slung over his shoulder. The road signs deteriorate, ever smaller, bent and battered, busted bullet holes. The road inclines. They stopped at roadside inns twice, and twice she waited in the cold and silence. The music abated, the mountain stars above. She's told not to open the door, so she huddles, draws her furred hood tighter, the chill of leatherette under her thighs, the smell of petrol from jerry cans. She need only light a match, and the whole lot, woof, just the blackened skeleton of the pickup, men scattering from the inn door. Not too late to run, but where to? Hadn't the fates conspired to weave her bridal shroud, watching her with their one eye hanging from the rear view? Too late, too late, too much has passed. Love came and ripped out her heart, replaced it with a burning coal, folding air tickets into a travel pouch and promises of gifts, swatches of wedding silk, a garnet brooch to bleed out in her sponge bag, and here she is dabbing wax on her lips on the cold, slippery back seat in a high-altitude lay-by. Я изучил науку расставания. Yes, I too have studied the science of parting. There was a press conference. I sat veiled, was asked whether I had given up my rights that night when, with hair loosed, I bent down to examine the wax, or when I opened my door and tiptoed by the wan glow of the nightlight, left over from when small children strayed on the landing and their mothers scooped them up to soothe them. I slid across the bolt that barred the door, holding to my chest a sports bag, and there, outside, an unlit car in meagre light heralded the new. Did she say goodbye? Did she wave? Did she genuflect, text? Did she blow a kiss as she slumped down the stairs, or think of her brothers still asleep in their bunk, baby fists resting on superhero sheets? Did she offer thanks or prayers? Did she pass between childhood and marriage like a hostage thrown from one phalanx onto the sand in front of the other? They are pure, at least they talk a good deal about purity in this city where war is the father of all. They slip off shoes at the doors, and always after wrestling or shooting, slaves run strigils over their naked backs. And before they are dressed in laundered gowns, they are rubbed with oils and unguents, forbidden to use deodorants or products or pain relief or even gas at the dentist, strapping weapons to themselves, brandishing pikes, standing three to a chariot. They are like the heroes in children's tales, sleeping on dry bracken after a swim. You know how it says, no one steps in the same river twice, always scattering in the grass. She has a dream in the wretched cellar, so very far from home. Although when she wakes, nothing is real, only slowly becomes real as she wakes, and the dream, lapping, recedes. But in the dream, she knew she'd had this dream before. Within the dream announced itself as a repeating dream. Within her dream, there is a past, contained in recognition, that aching sense that moves just ahead of her like water, that she has been here before, that she's been here eternally before. The dream was of a freezing desert, hard to capture a dream because it moves just ahead. It seems there, but it isn't, always partly clothed. But the sky was speckled with stars, and this journey through the vast, cold nothing led to something beyond her wildest. But was she perhaps confused? Was this not space? Did there exist such a wild place on the globe? Every wild place is simply the edge of our wildest, but to another it is the centre. She would not be surprised to see a group of women eating under a frozen tree on a plain, arboreous chandelier raining its glass on them where they pass food about, lipstick on their mouths in the wilderness, skirts and scarves, and the tree scattering its crystal shock. It could just be a spasm of memory, or it could be a picnic under a frozen plum tree in outer space. It is true, I said, that morning in the basement, we thought we had nothing left, but day after day we were losing, one after another brought home, defiled, dust-stained, all their lives moisture smeared across the punishing grit. Hemorrhaging loss, it seemed we could lose no more. Every new handful scooped from a vast heap of loss, and yet when we sang the gods' praises. We sang of riches we had once enjoyed. Truly, I dreamt of nothing but home, although, like all nostalgia, it was false. The golden light of evening, then the gloam, and everything gentle, unforced, shadowed, laughing features, a conversation out of reach, a cine-film, my brothers tumbling from their saddles, scent of sunscreen, the gnarled root in a peach, a lizard basking, a paper boat twisting in the eddies, the moment a milk tooth unfastens from the gum, or how it felt when once I sucked my thumb. But I can't be sure of ever having owned such an array of recollected moments. Did the memory begin with me, or was it always chugging idly like an engine, jolting like a hen without a head? Egg, chicken, egg, chicken, egg. The bored guy in the yard sits nearer to my window like a dog shifting daily closer, laying itself, slumping down, as if merely following the sun, never looking my way. He's sounding arrow shafts, ready for their bronze nips, his bow placed out in the dust, his most treasured possession directly in line with my window. All I'd have to do is reach out and tickle his ear. He's longing to tell me, tongue-tied but longing. He's longing to tell me, never looking, tongue-tied, longing to loose his tongue. I reach out to tussle his hair, to set his tongue loose. His bow is of wood, with a handle of bone. Its arc, he says, is the arc of life, curving up to the midpoint in its prime. The sun at noon, the prow of the archer's chest, stretching to dispatch its slender missile. How it descends fast as the sun, racing down towards the far sea to plunge itself into non-existence. Or, as the poet begins his purple song with long languid lines, singing of arms, so enamoured of his lovely voice, he climbs slowly to the apex, gripping the mic, whispering, the mortal hero dealt a sudden blow, and bleeding out his mortal juices, takes up arms against the foe, brings spear to shoulder, and releases. Now your poet's ablaze like Zeus, whipping up the words in a lather of horror, of disaster. Flinching as he courses through the dust, one final thrust, and all is lost for the tamer of horses. He brings his dirty finger down the bow's polished wood to where he's wedged it in a patch of time. You're funny, I say. You rhyme. He grins, toothless. They laugh at archers, but we're ruthless. They say we're crooked, but I once shot a man in the foot, and he never walked straight again. Okay, good to see you back so promptly. Thank you for that. I like to start on time. Can you all hear me at the back? Can you all hear me? You can't hear me? Shall I shout? Would that help? Is that better? Yeah, great. Okay, can we make a little ring with our chairs, do you think? Can we just make a little ring? That's great. But I'm going to do a little exercise now. We've all had a read-through of the text, and I think we're all there with it. So what I'd like to do is this. Have you all heard of actioning? Everyone heard of actioning? Right, I thought so. Anyway, it's standard stuff, but it can yield some insights, I find, especially at the beginning of the rehearsal process. And it can be invaluable with a tricky text or one that doesn't initially appear to have a narrative. So I'd like us to get into groups of 2. And if we have someone over, maybe, yeah, we can have a threesome there, so to speak. Now, I'd like you each to take a fragment and just action it line by line. I know this can be very unfamiliar, so I think we'll do a group 1 together, just so we can get the hang of it. For example, in the speech, is it true, I said. Yep, have you got that one? It's
page 14 in your books there. Right, okay, so here we go. Is it true, I said, that morning in the basement we thought we had nothing left, but day after day we were losing, one after another, brought home, defiled, dust-stained. What do we think of the actions that actually underpin that text there? If you want to think of it more loosely as, you know, a sort of gestus in the Brechtian sense, I think it may help also if we can just stick to some verbs. What verbs are the machines behind this little piece? What is actually going on here? What is the author trying to make happen? We've got a, can you say that? Anguish. Well, anguish is more of an abstract state, really. I mean, can we form it into a verb, a doing word, a word of action? In fact, can we steer clear of abstraction here? Let's stick to verbs. I want the concrete. As Bert Brecht said, the truth is concrete. And hopelessness won't do either. I want active agency. It's important to remember active agency in battle at all times. Otherwise, where's the conflict? Where's the dynamic? If we can't identify it, what do we present as we speak the lines? If you like, where's the fight if you can't lift the sword? There are times when stasis does not cut the mustard. After all, I like to see the blossoming tree, but only my disgust at the speeches of the warmonger brings me to the rehearsal room. I'm going to end with two pieces from just a little later in the book. They're both sonnets, and they're actually sonnets by Pushkin, which I rewrote as a sort of translation exercise. This is me, not the bad director anymore. I wasn't actually exaggerating that very much. I have actually worked with. So these two sonnets are Pushkinian sonnets, very, very beautiful in the Russian. But as you know, Pushkin has sort of been co-opted by the Putin regime as a symbol, nationalist symbol. So trying to work with these texts is also an effort to rescue Pushkin. Not that I think he needs rescuing by me, but both of the poems I reset as spoken by Helen about Paris after Paris's death. And I will finish with these two. And I just wanted to thank very much poets and players and my extraordinary fellow readers, Darren and Louise, and musicians, Lulu, Yang and Lulu. It's been such an extraordinary evening and afternoon. And thank you so much. Is it true, my friend, my head dancer, that at night, when dreamers are asleep and the moon alights on the huddling hills, the stopped-up tombs are emptied? I summon my shade. I am waiting. Come to me. Come once more. Appear to me just as you were when I last saw you, sickly pale as river mud, dragged, still blood-stained to the pyre. Or come to me like faint starlight, the thinnest bird call, airy wraith, or even as a horrid vision. I don't much care. I call you back, not to speak to you of war or to reproach us both. I don't want to know what the shades know, or even to tell you I repented publicly of you. I am still missing you. I love you still. Know this, I am yours. There, under the stone walls of his city, bronze nibs tattooed him with his own graveside speech, and his little soul fled nimbly into the hills. But a heavy curtain has fallen over this empty stage. The report was brought by an indifferent witness, and indifferently I turned my face. How I once burned and trembled at his name, leant at my window, weak with love
until he came, touched me with his calloused fingers. Where did it all go? Poor, credulous shade. Those memories, I feel nothing for them. My debt is paid.